Redditors who work in the air, what's the scariest, dumbest, weirdest thing someone has came in for? Dumbest, lady who came into the air, spilled her soda on the floor, then frantically began cleaning it up with her hands because she didn't want the government coming in to collect her DNA. Now you may be thinking she had schizophrenia or something else that causes delusions like I did, but nope. All that was wrong was she had pain in her knees. Overall though, she was healthy, just dumb. Had a lady come in for shortness of breath. Began to place an oxygen mask on her. She yells, "I'm allergic to oxygen," and pulls the mask off. I heard the doctor laugh behind the curtain. Maybe that's why she had shortness of breath. Morbidly obese guy came in for right lower quadrant pain. I lifted up his gut and found his lost wallet. Solved 2 problems. I hate that I'm about to ask this, but was it just caught there, or had it started to be like absorbed into the body, if you get what I mean? 20/M came in for stomach pains. Said he was hungry. Hadn't eaten in 2 days. Yeah, that's pretty dumb. Chick came in because she was miscarrying. Claims gravida. Pregnancies 27. Para. Live births 0. Says that in the last 2 years since she got on birth control to help regulate her periods, she's had a miscarriage every month. We had to explain to her that she was experiencing regular periods. This is why sex ed is so goddamn important. My friend worked in a. She had an obese man come in complaining of a rash under his gut. Upon close examination they found several splinters. When asked, the man casually replied, "Oh, that must be from the love board," so the crew had to ask for details. Apparently, the couple had to use a board to pry the man's gut up to get to his penis for lovemaking activities. Good lord, I'm glad I'm losing weight. I have a male cousin who landed himself in the air because he thought that instead of a condom, he could put something tightly around his male appendage, and it would force the sperm to stay inside. Unfortunately, getting it off posed a problem and he ultimately wound up in the air with a zip tie around his male appendage. His nickname has been Zippy for 5 years now. My aunt is a nurse. This is her story. 2 extremely drunk men came in. One of them fell down the stairs and somehow he got glass in his eye. They pulled out the glass and sealed the gash in his eye with super glue. They had to soak his eye in acetone to get it open. Holy crap. I'm an X-ray tech and the hospital I used to work at had a lot of homeless people come in. This one man came in and there was an order to X-ray both his feet. As soon as I got to the hallway with his room there was a nasty smell. I got to his room, opened the door, and almost puked. He was soaking his feet in water and it was the worst thing I have ever smelled in my entire life. His skin was peeling off and getting stuck to the X-ray board. I had to stop a couple times but I kept my poker face. You, my friend, are a champ. One case that really freaked me out was a guy that came in that was around my age, mid-20s, and he was having severe pain in his shoulder, but claimed he didn't injure it. He gets taken back, gets X-rays done, and finds out his body is absolutely riddled with cancer. He was given 1 year to live. The family's reaction to the news was so heartbreaking to witness and something I will never forget. A number of things come to mind, but top 3 without thinking. 1. Man with 10 inches cucumber in his rectum. Did not mention said cucumber till the MD noticed a bump on his stomach. Still didn't say anything until we got a CT result. 2. Older man came in with vibrator in rectum. Wife couldn't get it out and refused to come with him. 3. Younger male came in with priapism. Urologist was called in to drain it. One of the most bloody, horrifying things I've ever seen. I saw him again 3 days later for the same thing. All kinds of abuse and trauma and death. But let's stay lighthearted. My mom used to be a registrar in an ER. When patients came in she was the one who took their insurance, asked about their symptoms, took their vitals, etc. One day she's entering paperwork for a woman whom I think came in for injuries to her hands but I don't quite remember. Mom's taking her information, and one of the questions is about the patient's occupation. The woman says, "Oh, I'm a stripper. I work for Dinty Moore." Mom responded that she had no idea Dinty Moore hired strippers. The woman says, "No, I'm a stripper," and gestures emphatically in the air with her bleeding hands. Turns out, she strips the meat off of cow tails. That's apparently what the meat is in Dinty Moore beef stew. Cow tail. For the record, The hand gesture for stripping meat off a cow tail probably looks a lot like a handy. Just wanted to make sure that didn't go unnoticed. I was shadowing in the air once and this big white lady came in with this massive bruise around her lower stomach area. The doc asked what happened and she responded, my horse kicked me in my pee and I just bit my lip and turned around to force myself to not immediately bust out laughing. I got kicked in the chest by a horse. I should be friends with that lady. She got kicked in the pee and I got kicked in the tea. We'd be a riot at parties. I used to work in the accident and emergency department in our city hospital. Without doubt, the worst thing I ever dealt with was the police and social services bringing in a 2-year-old who had been immediately removed from his home after a child protection visit. The parents had stubbed out lit cigarettes on the child's eyes, on his actual eyeballs. He had the most horrific injuries, both old and new. I will never forget prepping the child for surgery to have his eyes removed. The fact any human could do this to another, especially a child in their own flesh and blood, is the scariest thing ever for me. Oh my god, I can't even process that right now. Had a car crash through our ambulance bay, action movie style. The entire car was well within the building when it finally stopped. It was a 16-year-old kid carrying his 14-year-old brother who had been shot in the abdomen over some gang stuff. Many people had just vacated that area seconds earlier because there was a CPR that came in and they were all in the trauma room working on that. If they had not, there would have been a lot of injuries. My time to shine. Guy comes in with a salt shaker lodged in his butthole. Said he was changing a light bulb then somehow fell onto it. A charge nurse here. 35, Chief complained. Boogers have started to taste bad for 1 week. No crap, I know what this guy means. I never had a sinus infection but I got one last year. The snot that runs down the back of your throat tastes fucking foul. You can taste the infection. One more. After the first Gulf War, a 22-year-old veteran came in with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to his temple. His girlfriend broke up with him, and he found her at a party with another dude. He goes back to his truck, gets his gun, gets on his knees in the front yard of the party and blows his brains out. The positive part, his organ donations went to 19 people. They took everything over the course of several hours. Every organ, eyes, skin, femur, tendons, hair, even the bones in his ear. His heart is probably still beating in someone. It's really good that he could still help people after death. When my mom died, her corneas went to a young woman that went blind after a car crash, and ever since then I've been a huge advocate for organ donation. My sister had a patient who was interested in having her clitoris pierced, but was afraid of the pain. Curious, she affixed a super strong magnet on top of and below the clitoris, but couldn't remove them. By the time she got to the hospital, her tissue was essentially dead. The doctor had to scrape the magnets off of her dead clitoris, as there was no other way to remove them. I am a man and was born a man with all requisite parts, so you know just how serious this is when I say that story made my clitoris hurt. One time the news was playing on the TVs in the waiting rooms. The anchor mentions a man shot in a gang-related fight, who later died from his injuries. Suddenly, my parents hear screaming and crying in the other room. It was the family of the guy who got shot. They had not been informed yet. I was working one afternoon, say 3-ish, when a frequent flyer came in Ito, drunk, for medical clearance for police detention. His back was .58. I crap you not. I was blown away. Several nurses were pretty impressed too. Then the doctor proceeded to inform me that .58 was not even the highest that this patient had ever had in our era. I had never even considered those numbers to be humanly possible. Currently writing this in the air, during a slow moment. Probably the dumbest I've had was a husband and wife who rode in an ambulance together, both clearly drug seeking. For whatever reason, they were placed in rooms across the hall from each other and kept yelling back and forth about what drugs they were getting. The ambulance was initially called for the wife, who had fallen downstairs, no injuries visible or on x-rays. The husband rode in with them and checked in, claiming the wife had fallen into him and taken them both to the ground. The husband's only injury was where he said his feet had tangled in the steps. There was no bruising, swelling, abrasions, etc. But he had clearly just manually pulled out 5 of his toenails. They were not contiguous toes, and it involved both feet, just the nails. Emergency medicine is the daily interference in the process of natural selection, so it takes something truly stupid or crazy to shock me these days. Put a flare gun between his legs, like a penis I guess, and shot it off. 3rd-degree burns to the groin are not fun. I don't work in the ER, but I was stupid and came in for stomach pains. Tried to do a urine test and realized it was my period. In my defense, the pain actually got to the point where I couldn't move the lower half of my body without screaming. That sounds totally reasonable. Pain is pain. I worked security for the hospital and a man came in threatening to shoot everyone. Police searched his vehicle in the car park and found 3 firearms and ammo. I am going to shoot everyone. Hold up, let me go outside to get my guns. Dumbest, a mid-20s male with a pimple on his face. It was 2 AM and it hurt, so he decided the emergency department was the place to be. Scariest, Ghana. Had been there just long enough to adjust to things being incredibly different to here. Australia. A man had a fight with his brother and his brother hacked him up with a cutlass machete. They carried him out of the taxi and someone got his hand off the back seat. His arm was barely attached and he had 2 incredibly deep head wounds. Could see fractured bone without even touching it. Everyone else, I was the only non-Ghanaian there, was too busy taking pictures or gawking to actually try to save the person bleeding to death in front of them, so I did my best. Then I got in trouble because my scrubs had blood on them. I used to be an EMT and one time we got called to a house in the middle of the night for a patient with belly pain. We get to his house and he is bent over a chair in extreme pain. We get him in the ambulance and start taking him to the ER. The whole drive he's letting out these tiny farts that are deadly. He's also yelling that he just needs to fart. Can't we give him something to make him fart? The doc asks us if there is a possibility of a foreign body issue and I say that I didn't check. The doctor sends him to the CT scanner where he lets rip with a fart that echoed. He felt better and left the ER. They had to close the scanner to air it out. I have 2 friends who are nurses and Friend A said that there was a guy who went in because he had a pickle stuck in his anus. Friend B said that there was a guy who went in because he had a pickle jar up his anus. I think the guy with the jar up his anus died during surgery. It's like I'm always saying, 1 or 2 maybe, but never the full jar. Guy walked in completely impaled with a 4x4 wood post. He was drinking and working on his roof when he fell off. His buddy got a chainsaw, cut the bottom of the post, and somehow the impaled guy stood in the back of the pickup for the ride to the ER. He walked in the reception area and said, "Hey everybody, I hope you don't mind if I cut in line a bit. This seems quite serious," and promptly passed out. He survived. Another drunk man came in with a bag and a living animal inside demanding to see a female doctor. In the bag was a porcupine. He said, "I thought it was a cat," dropped his pants and was covered in porcupine quills. Doctor had to leave the room to compose herself. She says to me, "How is freaking a cat is okay? A porcupine is unexpected, but having a male doctor examine you, that's crossing the line, I guess." A colleague told me this one. A man came in with an erection that wouldn't go away. Claims he hadn't taken any drugs, but I have no idea if that is true or not. Turns out he woke up with it, then went to work for a full day before coming to emergency to get checked out. Don't know what happened after that. I don't work but in a hospital. Back in West Virginia, girls used to come in frequently for just a pregnancy test. It's not like they sell them in the dollar store or anything. My absolute favorite was a 23-year-old who came in at like 3 AM because their sunburn was itchy. There was also a guy who had a baseball-sized, festering, stinky sore on the top of his head. He had had it for over a year and was just wearing a baseball cap and ignoring it. You could smell him from the hallway. This is the Statue of Liberty like in 1776 seconds for unlimited freedom. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.